First of all, and the world is to know the United States of America, all their successive governments, the previous government, since Jimmy Carter time, since George Bush Sr., Clinton, George Bush Jr., Obama, Joe Biden, Abraham Trump 1, Trump 2. And now Omobaka, your friend, saying Iran nuclear program. It has been a tension which the world governments have been managing the situation, because the Europeans that even initially started, they realized that they were following the Americans blindly.
Okay.
And they were following the Israelis almost fierce and blindly. So they somehow relaxed. It was a time in the 90s. Lot of the IEA programs or meetings, that was led by the Austria part of the UN arms and then nuclear conventions and also offices, they all accused Iran. It was the same accusation and George Bush that they call Iraq.
Okay.
But let us not forget that before then there had been a fight in the 80s. There had been a fight in the 70s between Iraq and Iran. The story at that time, America, Israel at a point have supported Iran to fight Iraq. And then over the period, they supported Iraq to fight Iran. So this has been the complexity as a history between these neighbors between Israel and her neighbors. Meaning, yes, Israel consistently will accuse Iran, on the sponsor all the terrorist organizations around the region, i.e. Al-Qaeda, i.e. Daesh or ISIS, i.e. Hezbollah, i.e. Hamas. But the world should also not forget Hamas, for instance, Israel accusing one territorial grounds called the Gaza, called the Hebron, called the West Bank, or Israel state, and a Palestinian also calling themselves state. That Hamas was a foundation, a creation, an establishment by the same Israel. When Yasser Arafat of the PLO, he decided to open Palestinian as a state. These were the proxy criminals called them but at that time. They was established by the Israelis, and I would say Americans no money. And now woman grew as breeding mosquitoes in your gutter. When it becomes big, they turn around and bite you. So it was the system that they created. So now the organization friend Hamas. Now I've been in the baby I will do ya. At what point do you say Iran for the best sponsor? No. The same thing in the United States, Taliban and Mujahideen, among the Russia, the history, consistent history, has been there between these two countries and then the neighbors, call it the Middle East and the Arabian Peninsula. Now, Israel consistently said Iran sponsored terrorism. The United States consistently say Iran will develop nuclear arsenals, nuclear warheads, ballistic warheads, using the technology available at the disposal of Iranians. And Israel they are too much afraid. Their targets can reach, that is Iranian targets, 1,500 kilometers. They can easily reach there. And let us not forget one of the Iranian leaders, that was the then Ayatollah Khomeini, had said wipe Israel from the region if they don't stop killing the Arabs, that is the Gaza or the Palestinians. It is our issue had always been there. But periodically, America and Israel, that kind of surveillance, hit and run, bombings, against Tehran several times. Now the issue became we are discussing nuclear. Iran for Ingivu into nuclear warehouse no more program. Iran also had maintained that nuclear is for power.
Okay.
Energy.
Okay.
But not the ballistic warheads now more can.
Okay.
Okay. The International Atomic Agency, IAEA, Iran several times We have experienced this in the early 2000s and early 2000s, early in the 2020. The PR Austria agency now call Omako. So the Europeans have even relaxed their side because the trumpeting was America, the trumpeting was this. And involvement of NATO say, okay, could take a military operation, a great military operation. No. Then at that time, relaxed. They didn't see much because the world should not forget, say, debate to Saddam so. Saddam had developed BBA almost about to strike. And then the back coastal, one of the British finest prime minister, Tony Blair, who blindly followed the same thing as President Trump. Ekodi, your friend is saying, Joy Bush here, Saddam Hussein here, but rather the target was they were going after Saddam. They were not going for any nuclear. At the end of the day, exercise, Saddam, they couldn't destroy a country. No? They didn't find one single nuclear warhead. So it is the same thing that the strategists said. Look, we want to tear the guy down. 12 days exercise in July last year. And America for now intervened and said, because they realized at that time at the response of Iran, there was targets in Israel, targets in Tel Aviv, targets in Beersheba, targets in all over. They noticed that it was too much. And America for interveners. The strategy, the Iranians didn't get it. They realized that no, they were not well prepared. And if you want to hit these people as Israel, Iran for can surprise you. In this regard, you stay back. You said the fight in the Twajo. From July, and Komo diplomacy was on the course of seeking for lasting solutions to their problems.
Okay.
A year then, just a month ago, President Trump started to stimulate the conversation aggressively. And Kobani says that President Trump started mobilization of moving anytime about say USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, the combat troops the warheads, nuclear warheads guso. Now in America, they will not come back with that fight. Bush sang or the USS Abraham Lincoln or move into region, they don't go and come back with that fighting because of the massive number of troops also, massive logistics mobilization, massive money that goes into it. But at the end of the day, let us not forget, American women side business.
Okay.
But Israel is always being used as an anchor because Israel for their trumpeting. Why would Israel exist? Look at between Israel and Tehran. It's about 1,500 kilometers. Then Kwan and neighbor, only Jordan. Wako say Beirut, Obia Ankasa, Oko say Jordan, Syria, Oko say Syria, Obia Damascus, Oko Jordan, Obia Ankasa, only Egypt, Omukoye, only Ninebe Biako. Iran was far away. Iran and Tel Aviv is far away, unlike Jordan, unlike Syria, unlike Beirut, Lebanon, unlike Cyprus, were far away. And then in the consistency, now say, only Tehran stopping the program, or the Gaddafi YB. When Gaddafi had the program in Musrata, I remember in the late 80s, Okoho underground was shared Gaddafi programs, and the power supply, or send it 3 times back to back. Ubia Ankasa. Now President Trump has stepped in. All kinds of not vessels no call. All kinds of vessels no call. Then you have had a discussion just last week around Tuesday or Wednesday and asked them to come to the table. They were already at the table. They were already at the table. They should make a deal. They are asking what deal. The deal, they say, at no given point do we allow Ubia say, no, it's not done like that. Program, baby, I'm person who ni abechemo. Program, no one can some be the car best say, CB. My best says, say, programs, and Yaman, I say, nuclear, my best says, Dodona in July bombings for the 12 days. And see, let us talk diplomacy, let us find solution. What's okay, what? Now, what, you walk off. Where were the Europeans? Where were the United Nations? That kind of, that make us a toothless, your friend is a bulldog as an organization, call it. Where was the UN? Not more but overnight. Whilst even the Iranians were on their way back to their country after the discussions Oman and the power to have this discussion with the America, Israel, and then Iran. Oman do Omukrum. Then instructions. Because at that time when President Trump was asked, how was the conversation, the negotiation, I said, well, it was inconclusive, but we find a way to solve it. Not in no time. You go into the airspace, incapacitated their air radars, and then you started what is called epic fury by the Americans. Then Israelis started what is called the Lion's Roar. Master called it military operation. But should the world also forget, Russia started military operation. Then when Ukraine and the world did not solve it, they escalated into military invasion. When the military invasion was not adhered to, and almost declare war. Now Israel and then in the America are calling it a military operation. But that is not the scale of military operation. That is a full scale of war or full scale of military invasion. The only invasion in your mind say ground troops of the Americans and Israelis have not touched the ground to go on the combat on the ground fight. I don't know until you can't declare invasion. But when you talk about war there, the kind of bombs and the ballistic missiles and then nipa yeah, it's unprecedented. Okay, you went after the old man. The old man, maybe the country has a certain precedent. But the Iranian system, the supreme leader is there as what? The head of state. It's not different from Prince Charles.
Yeah.
It's not different from, how do we call it, Queen Elizabeth at the time. Or the supreme leader of the Iranian one. Almost council of governments in A3. The guard, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Council, no? And also the cleric, that is the woman, your religious people, and sana about the constitutional side, which is the presidency, only a day to day, like prime minister, and to only the head of all. That he performs a religious role and perform all these straight functions into military reportman, police reportman, intelligence reportman, the council of the, and then the president takes care of the economic affairs and the governance institutions, etc. Into another there, to some extent, day to day he receives, like Yemfan is the overlord of the Ashanti nation, Ashanti kingdom, Otumfo. That is the kind of performance they were performing. And the DC, MC, Bina, or YBB, Ashanti regional minister, Bino, YBB, it doesn't necessarily actually come from the Otumfo. The Ashanti regional minister are political.
Yeah.
And this will be YBB, NDC minister, and also say they had an MPP. And they had an NDC minister, as we say, reference scenario, government also say, affect Otumfo. It's not done that way. But then the surprise thing is that the world. And then America always there's superpower, superpower or veto right, just like China won veto right, just like Chinese won veto right. All the UN permanent 5 missions, 5 permanent council members, excluding the seat one, only an invited or a sitting chairperson or a chair country at the UN summit, Security Council, making 6. And think of 5 for no British, America, France, your friends say Russia and China. And come on, no more discuss it. Whenever it comes to Israel, Americans are walk away. Unilateral decision. Israel, the smallest nation among smaller nations of the world, had never one day respected UN. They have never one day respected, say, United Nations is a body of about 189 countries or almost 200 around the world. Powerful bigger nations, including Ukraine, switch Israel how many times? Israel, south to north, 250 kilometers, west to south, east, 90 miles. Just a small nation. But they have done things that UN, and at the end of the day, they come and sit at the UN chamber, or the United Nations General Assembly, and instruct what they want to do, and they never take any instructions. And America, as it is, always in support. Yes, yenim so me alliance. Yes, yenim so me nipa baako. But yeah, that fight we pa ni do mo ye ni tie. In fact, it's the most so saddest and the most saddest aspect of it is the Arabian neighbors. Arabian neighbors now, mama the comfort. Yes, we know. So America, through institutional, through holding agreements in the 1946, will be to say Saudi Arabia or declares okay, and I'm Mecca, Iran, we now Mecca no be form criminals in their attack and then they want themselves to take cover and control of the security of Saudi Arabia, protecting Saudi Arabia and then vessels go see her. They did the same thing Saddam Hussein in Kuwait and then vessel go see her. They did the same thing and building the bases your friends Qatar. We're building the bases our UAE. Or building bases even Lebanon around the peninsula or as many as 12 ships, as much as 40,000 troops in go region. And it's a banner, more Arabs now this issue. Egypt and Israel started the Arabian-Israeli war. It wasn't between Israel and Iran. It wasn't even between Israel and Palestine. It was Israel and Egypt. But when United States had a president called Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale, government, and American fought because I said no, this is a needless war. Jimmy Carter on record on the team solve and once that smoke with the peace pipe with Israel or solve by permanent. It's Jacoban is saying and Assad now Arab food ma quine and US basis. Munina protect religion back home. Munina protect one destiny, one heritage. Because the Houthis, the Sunnahs, the other tribe I think the same tribe in our UN and one was Saudi Arabia. The same tribe in our Yemen and one was Saudi Arabia. The same tribe in our Yemen and one was Palestine. The same two tribes, the Quraysh tribe in Iran and one was the whole peninsula. A country be with the change. And a mama political system. Into someone Casamunia, the mama basis, Israel for basis, American basis around the whole region. And at the end of the day, Iran no yin who's only there or fighting for the interests of all of them. No, to them, that is the cause that Israel, Iran, so the retaliation is say. Now, now I'm will be a best stage. I show fee not to talk a idea and regardless of where it touches and how it lands. It is a serious case in the region. Israel interest or move America in, but let us not forget, say, the world's most intelligent and one of the intelligent prime ministers, undoubtedly, Bibi Netanyahu. But that one I know, and then I know for sure. It's very clever. And the United States President Bill or try to obey Buleno. He could not do that to Obama. It will not Obama in a problem. Because Obama also equally very intelligent. Obudozu and bamboozled himself over George Bush Sr. He couldn't do that to Clinton at the time that he came first. He went and came back, and went and came back. And he's the only prime minister of your friends, Israel. Yeah, about 3 times in the history since 1967.
Okay.
About 3 times.
Okay.
And he was the one indicted almost going into jail. Last 2 years was started to Palestine. Now he was due for jail sentence of corruption and corruptible practices. But that is the catch. Israel Prime Minister be or regardless whoever. Regardless whoever. At any given point, Israel Israel cannot have election. Israel cannot vote. Vote of no confidence. And to not primary general elections. Only elections now parliamentarians, what is called the Israeli Knesset. Parliament now. At any time, coalition government, city government, Al-Wahab government, make sure me who free. Coalition, Liquid Party, no mono. Namako Lebanon. Like I say, dissolve government, we are now form another. And to that be consistently, Israel 6 months be a change prime minister. You can check Ehud Olmert. You can check Ehud Barak. You can check Jason. Your friend is name. Omar Perez. Omina Koba. And this guy which is wisdom, clever wisdom in a way, but bad, bloody one. Let me put it on his hands. Because Wakum is a Palestine, Wakum Nipa, more than any Israeli prime minister. More than any Israeli prime minister. Not the first, not Sharon, no Bia, Wakum Nipa Chubia. Ariel Sharon, quite bad boy. No, Wakum Nipa Chen. And he always used the US government as a cover. Now I started creating BB so the Israeli Knesset as a law and constitution of Israel. So whoever the prime minister is, whenever one gun is in the air, whenever there's a bomb over Israel, you cannot. And it's over watch here. Time now there was a camp. Palestine, the NES said the solve now. And Iran, the 12 days operation. Because Israel need say Iran be Twaba. In Iran, Twaba there. The armed guard, the revolution guard, the Israeli armed forces, the Israeli defense forces, the Israeli air force, the Israeli Mossad. When they are in action, nobody goes to a parliament, nobody goes anywhere to vote. 81, political. And Netanyahu always your friend say, Trump. Let us not also forget the same Trump 2016. Only Netanyahu in a problem because, like I said, he will not commit American troops to go and do what Netanyahu wants. And we follow out. And Sana, Trump will be free. And even Trump was voted out because the Jews in Washington, the power brokers, they didn't like Trump say, one support to Israel, Amanankoku. And Fear Barney say, now this is the business catch. This is the business catch. President Trump, the Congress, or the campaign, presidency, say no. The biggest message on the platform says he will not commit American troops to wear uniform, and it costs money, and they will not, and they cost their lives. And then a bad man gaining popularity or gaining support all over the United States. I was winning massively against Joe Biden. This is what the message is taking there. Some American troops go by because of course a senseless war and one the country in this yeah, but say it tells you how business minded the man is. Because and Yaman no mutuguno, bombs no mutuguno.
Aye.
Any F-22, F-35, a move back one. American states, United States government, the police, the soldier, and the army, Oman yo mutu. A tuno a big company, a yatiti company, a CTV company, and the building tuno, a go. Man, a beton. Yeah, they do that now to sell wood because one ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles bomb, that could be about $1.2 million. It's you go on. Company bang Isika and Romdi. A company be the Nieto. And you look at the business side of Bibi Netanyahu because it's a businessman. You look at the businessman of the United States. President Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump, also a businessman.
One he was all out. And why no the world should not see it because Iran was PP. And now I could be Bonibi. That is not the case. The case is that you are looking at the political advantage to Bibi Netanyahu. You are looking at the business side of both of them, and you are looking at how it would affect the world economy for Wall Street also to enjoy. Because as we speak, Wall Street, because there will be a surge in the prices of crude oil, and that is where they make their money. So the Wall Street people will push the agenda for the fight to continue, so that the prices of fuel, the prices of energy will go up. You know very well said, when prices of fuel goes up, it doesn't affect the United States of America because the essence of the fight, the essence of Akochi Maduro, the essence of the Omu war, 40 million over 40 years reserve of fuel. And in Tokoesia, it doesn't affect them. But Ghana, Ubenya, Togo, Ubenya, Europeans, Ubia, Benya, like I said, the fuel dealers, energy dealers, fuel marketers, in American Wall Street, no. This is the time they make huge money. So they will hail him, they will support him. And then the arms and ammunition producing manufacturing companies, they are in business. By the time then they start another production. And it is a kind of a game. This is a game. Till today, American Congress, have not authorized, have not constitutionally allowed the United States president to go to war. It is being clever. We declare military operation or military action. What are they not saying? And then the U.S. executive law, the president can go into military action. That one is temporal. Obama called military action to go and execute duty of killing your friend is Osama bin Laden. That was a military action. But military action is just only boom, then you return to the base. That is action. Or operation is to go and tear down and do X, Y, Z. Yako bombu Iraq, Iran. Yabombu, Yako military action. But this one is a full scale because you move a USS Gerald Ford. You have moved USS Abraham Lincoln with the 40,000 troops on alert and put the whole region, 12 vessels, 12 ships on alert. It is a war. Which constitution, which Congress approved that? And nobody is able to do that. Yeah, a very sad story. And at the end of it all now, America will instruct, say, fight in the dinner. They will instruct, say, either you are with us or you are not with us. Now, NATO are the NATO members. But at the end of the day, say, Denmark, Trump, Kokan, and ma Europeans in the and the next country, Italy, Spain. Any countries no nuclear weapons along the American side, it's France, any UK, and Robert. Then I know say UK is preparing to go and support one because ground troops, American ground troops, they cannot stand the Iranian Revolution Guard. The British and the France, the Bitimako Gota, or Bitimako community fight on the floor. Or when it comes to say a full-blown invasion, and the dynamics of the whole thing, Papana created a very big mess for the world to pay. But you and I should be very watch out. Say, Iranians, will not give up easily. I'm very cautious because I've followed and I know this region and how they do things. Yes, American for joy. Yes, Iran for declare 40 days of mourning for Ayatollah Khamenei. My dear, I can tell you on authority, say, when it comes to war strategy with the Arabs and others, the man. They could be hiding the man to reduce the Americans' potency of destroying the country, looking for the man. Because that's what President Trump won't say. Obekunu. Into a normal pen. Okay, admit your kunu. Ebisa normal the next year. It's a very dynamic. Iran
for some, they are telling some so better take revenge. But as to some me one parampa say
Iran for admit it. Say Yakuno, but Iran culture, like any other cultures, Omu commanders need generals from Kuyen, Omo Munya Omu Bodino, Omafa, they will bury. You will see. But as we speak, they admitted say Yakuno, but they are not admitting say Yakuna body.
Exactly.
Let's say the coin 22 bomber no. And it's yes and Tom Hawk no. Echo deep into the office now Muklimu say Oma no. The office goes deep down. But the Tom Hawk will go deep down and escalate and then kill. That's why destroyed. But I suspect strongly say time na no minim say Trump edit our vessels Naba area no peninsula and so on. There's a high possibility the did not see. Because up to now, Oma declared more than 40 days, but they've not shown the body to bury him. If it was done last night, not much as I know of. And if you are checking carefully, this is the man the Iranians will protect to their last. So I think surprisingly, say, did not see. So they will make the world agree. They will make the Americans comfortable, Israelis comfortable, say yes. But Mossad is saying, say, they were very much sure, say, the man was in the building at the time. Because from this information, they are using the Afghan refugees and building the Mossad network. And women are here as security, as watchmen, cleaners, the palaces, the Israelis for no use to it's more or less, Israel for to a serious intelligence network. Because I could buy operation on Moyano. Jet fighters, surveillance flights, surveillance jets, the names ringing. Yeah, take it from any American for there be because Israeli machines will use an American for use. Israeli jet fighters, and it's 52 bombers, the team use American for them without any extra training because it's the same thing. Only name region And when it comes to real fighter, American for woman Arab for women to try. And to that be Israel for the quiet fighting. And to the also need American form a cover. Then Israel for use American equipment in the human
hey. Na asem no kwa Jimmy say because osha fiti weekend na besi e na ase enya de hwa adwo obia we so be take revenge we so be say but Al-Wahab mimisa senia wamma ye history am ye hu de wo say ade ne nya bibia ye political na say bia business wise and amasa de nyina ekoso no senia wo che say United Nations kwa say waye toothless bulldog bi wo kasi enti se dia ekoso yi amama hodo ayen yaka no and then ye betimi aye because we are the mercy of this thing
and you so amsa so na so to go so beju no I called you akutu e yadema also amsa no sorry you could divorce so sorry that to some pass Ghana na so need to go kontra ekokon America betiase France betiase
Debbie.
We are talking about no invasions, to respect the international law, sovereignty rights, sovereign nations, and their sovereignty rights respected. I think that when it comes to these two countries, and for that matter, Israel, they don't respect any countries. We look at Lebanon, very quiet country. Lebanon, the army crying the smallest in the world because the population, Israel, and Lebanese population outside Lebanon is 5 times bigger than the one inside Lebanon. They have about 3 million. They have about 20 million population outside the world. The same thing like Israel. So the population inside is less than 5 million, less than 4 million, but the population outside is about 70 million across the world. And to me now we are 24. But he goes there because the money is near army. Or fighting could do only by route. Recently, or fighting into the personal. Now or yet in the name and the strength and the strongness, our original no Israel teaming could use in airspace and Iran easy was the Bashar. Bashar was the Syria. And woman they no be the same last year now to and no my rebels Oma so criminals America for declare them as criminals ISIS rebels they be taking the government of Omar Bashar your friend Assad President Assad. This is what happened. If Assad was still in Syria, they wouldn't have been able to use the airspace because it's easier to fly over Syria, Iran, there you go. Other than that, as all way to the Persian side, Okakofa, Kurdistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, airspace and then what might be Iran.
Matthias,
only to the border because Turkey man will use the side to enter Iran. Because Turkey is against what is happening. And the easiest way is say, Assad no Assad no and Israel one tries to Iran. The Assad free on operation 12 days no now your friend say made done whatever no. They couldn't have done it easily because Assad wouldn't have permitted them, and that's going to be blue. Yeah, check. Media houses no. Almost TV phone.
Mate, Al-Wahab ya dasa papa nyamishrao. Many abema Farouk Al-Wahab diplomatic consultant wa ben eba no abakosem amama ya nkomodie ene amama ya hodo bambo ho nsem a na se ade we ye dakwe keche ya asem wo na Israel na nkasa no minimum interest because utie history ya Al-Wahab dia maye ya e kire say wo mo kranya bibi nti no wo ku ba America no nim so betimi use Israel dia nya de ono pe no and wo use wo no so follow blindly
anya blindly you see
okay because both of them and as both sides no be our benefit a obenya e wo entokwa na e koso ni mo because Israel person wo ye no de ton ne niema waye e na e ka ne say America so anim se obenya sika e san se ono oil no sa niema no mo so wo no backup wo nti wo de no e short to emfa ne ho
for 40 years.
For 40 years.
America will back up for 40 years when it comes to oil. Until now, you see, we are seeing in our fan go short to ye fuel America bet me at for 40 years on be use oil a fuel on
oil why assassin so no kwan senka ya man krofo we kwan kra
ache bi me president Kufuor di nkomo bi ana ka kire me say kechire ono friend me wo fa say yo ye wo oil wa hanom but akade adibetu no sika adan obusika bi oboy na me nti di
we friend trillions of dollars
say serious
yes ye ni akade na ye dibetu
ye ni akade ya dibetu nti eno ane say o de betu na ma ti say you go
na ye go na ma kakra
until recently not the whole Ghana you go na no to o ma yen say I think it was 3%.
Yeah, 3%.
The whole Ghana you go
so ma increase in kakra ma.
What you say? So that is the problem. But Osha, I don't know what Israel seek to achieve.
Exactly.
And America. So to one more say me kotwa show be so.
Now won't hear the Al-Wahab weekend. One man manufacture 2 in your bomb need the go. So put on day. It was to one cow back on no more say. Ya tofa hanebia when you been for swaka clear free wa no mako to afa. Because
ballistic missiles here, okay. Me say and they send kausi on peso and they call Russia will be. North Korea will be. There are other area one was anyoma we be a war and our habit was say a nuclear weapon working a year for a energy and yeah for war but America won't to me finance in the say okay ye who back who say waha and ye who be and I zibi and no. So what is that?
Because they just want to continue to control the system, the person who control we are say now quite to say without them you can't survive. And you see that's the reason why you're money Russia. Or money Russia for for fancy no.
Yeah, history man me who say Europeans including America. One more enslave yen.
Yeah.
Russia enka.
Oh yes.
Russia colonize any African country.
That one is true.
African country be no Russia colonize no. What you say? Now mo to and na mo de mo sorry ya di ma ya o mo kuku can you ho amenti ase and yeah you see sometimes you see it challenges my belief as a Christian. So I ask myself so many questions. Say
Israel
Nyankopon echusu ye.
No more say omo de sad ne ye.
And the pastor was trying to convince me say the Israel Kupon choose you was a human being. It was not the nation. But out of that human being the nation was established. Came the nation. Okay, so
it hurts. No na Al-Wahab kano yeah. But adia ba ko ye mareko over the weekend. Was asem ya e course mu ene se. Won se Al-Wahab ka se wa me ate ase se we no e betimi affect fango ho ton and ase ni dwadie ho akasa because America no wote ono backup ho. Ono wonim se chiro so a or 40 years reserve. It pa kube 10 years or no and funny ho. Opa kube 20 years or no and funny ho. Na osha ya wanu he ya ni Togo ni Cote d'Ivoire ni ya wa 18 mu hanom no. E kwa ba na sa ya ne ho be kire